This stack of books is a collection of the series that I'm in the middle of and will be continuing in 2025. Yeah, it's a lot. Now, I recently did this in a short form style, but I wanted to dive a touch deeper with these and tell you what they're about and maybe expose you to some new series that you might want to pick up next year. So I'll really dial in on my top 5 most anticipated series, and then I'll rapid fire through the rest. And while you're here, tell me the series that you're most looking forward to in 2025. And of course, this is where I'll let you know that likes, shares, subscribing, ringing the bell, all of that is welcome. And I'll give a special plug for the Bindery community that I just launched. I'm really excited about this because you get a number of features with exclusive content, plus my dynamic bookshelf where all of my book recommendations will go. And over the weekend, I launched a Discord where you can interact with me and our community of sickos directly. You can find details for that in the description or in my link tree. Check it out. I appreciate it. Now let's start to work our way through this mess that I put myself in. The Gael Song trilogy by Shauna Lawless starts with the Children of Gods and Fighting Men. And I talked more in depth about this in my November reading recap, so you can check that out. I also did short form reviews of it on other platforms, but this is a 10th century Irish history and mythology inspired fantasy series that features 2 female main characters, one of which is one of my favorite characters that I've been introduced to recently because she's so unbelievably unhinged in the best way. Hail Gormla. And I'll repeat this here because I think it's worth mentioning. The writing in this is so efficient. It's not too wordy or too sparse. The pacing is very well managed throughout. The magic is discreet and is woven in really well with this unique world and plot. And the world building isn't a chore to consume. It happens organically. So you're not getting these huge blocks of world building or exposition or info dumping. I really, really appreciate that. So I still need to read The Words of Kings and Prophets and The Land of the Living Dead, which are books 2 and 3. And there are also 2 novellas spliced in here with Dreams of Fire and Dreams of Sorrow. I've heard great things about the series after book 1, and I already loved book 1. I gave it 4.5 stars. The mutuals that I trust have said that it's awesome, so I'm jacked to continue my journey with this one. I'm about finished with book 1 in the Liveship Traders trilogy by Rob and Hobb. This starts with Ship of Magic, and then it is followed by Mad Ship, and then Ship of Destiny. So you've got these 3 books here. This is the second trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings, the first of which is the Farseer trilogy, which I loved. I mean, Royal Assassin, one of my all-time favorite fantasy book and favorites, and Robin Hobb is already on my Mount Rushmore of fantasy writers. She's incredible. Now, I am a big character-driven kind of gal, and it's Hobb and Abercrombie, Joe Abercrombie, in terms of who does character work and development the best. And make no mistake, this is a slow burn. Hobb really sits in these moments and unpacks what's in the character's head from every angle. So if your preference is more of a plot-driven, fast-paced style, this might not be for you, but I have adored every Hobb book that I've read. And again, her writing is just elite. I'll have more to say about this when I'm done, because this is a high priority for me. The Ship of Magic's premise involves sentient ships that allow them to sail the high seas with tremendous skill. And one of the characters we follow involves a young woman as she tries to take control of her family's live ship, while also dealing with like quarrelsome family dynamics, politics, pirates, and so on. And this has one of the most infamous and hated villains in all of fantasy. And as I've gotten to know these characters, I can see why. He is a real piece of work, and he's a big reason why I've got to like hype myself up before every chapter, because he's such a frustrating person to deal with. And Hobb just puts her characters through the most in all of her books. Now, I'll be finishing this one, Ship of Magic, in the next couple of days. I've heard brilliant things about book 2 with Mad Ship. And again, I remember my favorite book from Farseer being book 2, Royal Assassin. So I think I am in for some peak fantasy with that. I've read the first 2 books in the Forever Desert series by Moses Ose Utomi. These are really, I hope that was in focus. These are really quick novellas, but they pack a punch. They punch way above their weight. It's like part fable, part fantasy, part psychological thriller. This is also an examination of oral storytelling with influences pulled from West and North African cultures. The author also said in an interview that he pulled some inspiration from Attack on Titan and Final Fantasy VII, which leads to a vibrant world with interesting magic and storytelling elements. Book 1 in this series, The Lies of the Ajungo, this follows a young boy on a quest for water that could save his dying mother as the oppressive Ajungo Empire brutally controls the population through propaganda and lies. And then book 2, which is The Truth of the Aleki, this takes place 500 years after the events of book 1, where we follow another young boy who must journey across the desert and take on a warlord and free his city from oppression. During this, we also encounter like myths and legends that sprung up from the ending of book 1, which is a really interesting angle to see how that like morphed and shifted over time from the original story happening. The Memory of the Agosi, which comes out July 15th, 2025, is one that I'm really looking forward to. I've already applied for an advanced reader copy, so hopefully I can get my hands on it early and let y'all know about it before then. But either way, man, I'm telling you, these books are the bee's knees, man. They achieve so much in very little time. It's a unique world. I haven't read much like it, and I hope there's more like this type of book in the future. The Will of the Many by James Islington was a top 5 fantasy read for me in 2023, and this year we might get The Strength of the Few, which is book 2 in the Hierarchy series. I've seen conflicting reports on this, so I'm not sure if we'll get it this year or next. I've been stalking his blog, and the last update I saw from Islington was that he was still going through a round of edits as he starts to work on book 3. This was back in September. I'm going to include this anyway and hold out hope that we get The Strength of the Few sooner than later. In The Will of the Many, this one, you follow a young runaway who is hiding his identity and sneaks into this fancy academy in the Republic that is also known as the Hierarchy. He does this to dig up secrets about a past disaster. In this world, the lower classes have to give up their will, basically their strength and determination. They give that up to the elite, who hold a ton of power. And our main character has to figure out how to navigate this tricky political scene while trying to get revenge and find out what really happened to his family. So you've got this whole training academy trope, which, yeah, that's been done to death. And I think that's where the comparisons to Red Rising are the strongest with this one. The other comparison is the Roman names that are used here. But I felt the world as a whole was significantly more Roman vibe overall. And as a huge fan of Roman ancient history, it really clicked with me big time. And the real strength of this book just lies in the polish of the writing and the tension between the characters throughout the entire thing. I was second guessing every person our main character interacted with. I was dissecting every word and action. I had no idea who I could trust at any moment, and it really made those scenes like vibrate with tension. And if you're reading this and you get to the end of part 1 and you're not sure it's for you, it's probably not. But I was seriously like locked in at that point. I devoured the rest of this book. And the ending is a massive mind screw. And I need to know where the rest of this series is going. So The Strength of the Few is one of my most anticipated reads of 2025 or 2026. We'll see. Now, I fully recognize that Scott Lynch may never complete the Gentleman Bastard series, but I still want to read through Red Seas, Under Red Skies, and The Republic of Thieves. And there's news on Lynch's progress in this world that is very encouraging. So from 2006 to 2013, Lynch released these 3 books. So it's been over a decade since his last release in what was originally supposed to be a 7-book series. So it hasn't been looking great. The 4th novel is titled The Thorn of Emberlane, and Lynch has been pretty open with his fans about why it's taking so long, including a tweet from 2 years ago about how he's having success with anti-anxiety medication. So as somebody that has struggled with anxiety and panic attacks for years before finally getting that under control, I'm not here to bust Lynch's balls, because him sorting that out is way more important than me getting another book to read. I've got plenty. But the reason there's hope on the book front is because Lynch announced major progress on 3 new novellas that form a two-part short story in this world, even releasing one of them in the 10th anniversary issue of Grimdark magazine, which is called Loch Lamora and the Bottled Serpent. The second of these is slated for a January issue of the Grimdark magazine. These follow our main character, Loch Lamora, from the original book at the young age of 13, as he spends a summer working in a colorful underworld tavern. Now, not only that, Lynch also announced that the third novella is already sold and to be published. So we're awaiting for more news there. Now, I haven't even explained what these are about yet and why I love them. So I'll do that, and I'll do that by talking about book 1, which is The Lies of Loch Lamora. This follows our main protagonist, Loch Lamora, a clever con artist and master thief. He leads a lively group of orphans called the Gentlemen Bastards in a bustling city of Camor that is very much like a real-world Venice if Venice were farting magic. And together they pull off some pretty amazing scams and heists. They outsmart the wealthy and even the most powerful criminals with their clever tricks. However, things take a turn when a mysterious figure known as the Great King appears, and this changes everything. And Locke finds himself caught in a dangerous game, and the story goes on from there. What I like about these is that the writing is just so superb. I mean, Lynch really sets the scene, and there's real music to his prose, and he can write some incredible banter. So even when the pace is slower in spots, like towards the beginning, you're still like grinning throughout. If it clicks for you, if that type of humor clicks for you and works for you. Again, that part is so important for me as a reader that needs their characters to sing, and the interactions between the characters in this kept me locked in. I think if you like Joe Abercrombie like I do, then this one will definitely resonate with you. I love a good heist story, and this one delivers big time, and it'll also work as a standalone too. So I don't want to dissuade you with the whole talk about the 7-book series and may not be completed. This works as a standalone too. Those are my top 5. Let's rapid fire through some more series that I'm excited to continue from multiple genres. The new season of Silo is dropping, and I plan on reading books 2 and 3, Shift and Dust, before I binge that. This is a dystopian / post-apocalyptic work of science fiction where humanity clings to survival in a self-sustaining subterranean city. The outside world is poisonous and uninhabitable. I mean, this is basically the concept of the Fallout Vaults, if you've played those games or watched that show. And I find it really well done and compelling, and you can start with Wool, which is book 1 in this series, and I really enjoyed this. I've been meaning to get to the rest of Between Earth and Sky by Rebecca Roanhorse after liking Black Sun, so that means that I have to get to Fevered Star and also finish the trilogy. This is a pre-Columbian inspired fantasy where matriarchal clans vie for power. There are some characters that I got on with, there are some that I didn't, but I did really love the uniqueness of this world. I had a ton of fun with Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames, and I still have to get to Bloody Rose to catch up. And I also think that he's working on book 3. The best way to describe Kings of the Wild is like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It's fun and lighthearted. The magic and creatures are creative. The writing is great. It's just a great time hanging out with this washed up band of warriors. I also had fun with The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, so I need to get to the rest of the books and the movies. It feels unnecessary to explain this one since it's been out in the pop culture world for so long. So I'll move on pretty quick here, but I'm looking forward to this. I am 2 books deep into Dan Jones's historical fiction trilogy, Essex Dogs. Lion Hearts is book 3. It comes out June 5th. Book 2 is The Wolves of Winter. This follows a small group of mercenaries that are fighting in the 100 Years' War on the English side as they attempt to invade Cressy in 1346. I am a fan of Jones's history books, and he showed some real chops in these 2 books, and they're just solid across the board with very few weaknesses. Speaking of historical fiction, I had a blast with Bernard Cornwell's Sharpe's Tiger, and I want to try Warlord Chronicles 2, but in the Sharpe series, you follow an English soldier, Richard Sharpe, starting with his involvement in the Siege of Seringapatam in India in 1799. There's a bunch of books in this series, and while they're hailed for their historical accuracy, and they are pretty accurate, that's a bonus, they're also just like a lot of fun. I was in Like, Not in Love with the Rage of Dragons, book 1 in the Burning series by Evan Winter, but I still want to give The Fires of Vengeance a run. This is an African-inspired military fantasy series. And if you want something that feels like a summer action popcorn flick, this is for you. And I also did a longer review of The Rage of Dragons when I talked about the Fantasy Sickos Book Club Q2 read. So check that out if you want to know more. Super rapid fire time. I mean, I've got the whole box set and I like Gunslinger. So maybe Stephen King's Dark Tower series will get continued this year, next year. I'm hoping we get a new release for the Locked Tomb series by Tamsyn Muir because I am smitten with these characters. Start with Gideon the Knight. I am patiently waiting for book 2 in the Threads of Power by V. Schwab because book 1, The Fragile Threads of Power, this was a banger. And then I've got rereads of The Age of Madness by Joe Abercrombie. This is my favorite trilogy and series of all time, and it definitely clears the initial First Law trilogy and starts much stronger with a little hatred. Even though the initial First Law trilogy is what made me fall in love with this world, Age of Madness, it's just on another level. And finally, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. George recently admitted that he may never finish it, but it wasn't exactly how the headlines was saying it. It was more like, maybe people are right, but he did say that finishing Winds of Winter or whatever it is was still a priority. Now, we can debate if we think that's true. But I'm not going to waste my energy on all that. I've thought about it enough. So there you go. That's my series debt laid bare for you and all to see. I will say that I've been pretty good lately at finishing or catching up on things that I've started, at least towards the end of the year. 2023 was the year of the binge for me. 2024 left a lot of open threads, but also closed a good deal in that year too. So as Dutch would say, I have a plan. I thank y'all for making it this far and hanging out with me. I'd love for you to come join our community on Bindery and pop into the Sickos Discord for a chat. So check out those links. And even if you don't, everything helps. Just viewing the video helps as I continue to make this the full-time gig. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the next one.